Rain hammers against the door at midnight. When Chris Hartley opens it, he finds Elena Ashford, his CEO at Meridian Print Solutions, always perfectly composed and untouchable, standing on his doorstep, soaked through. Her hair clings to her face, mascara slightly smudged, clutching a folder of documents and a bag of takeout that's getting drenched. "Elena?" His shock is evident. "What are you doing here?" She looks up at him, rain streaming down her face, vulnerable in a way he's never seen. "I know you said you needed space. I know I should respect that, but I couldn't let you leave my life without asking for what I really want." He stares at her, frozen. The rain continues to pour. "Can I come in?" she asks softly. "Please?" Chris's father, Daniel Hartley, died when Chris was 20, a heart attack at 56. His dad had run a small printing shop, always talking about expanding next year, about taking that vacation next summer, about slowing down eventually. Eventually never came. Chris watched his mother, Margaret, grieve, watched her try to hold everything together while selling his father's beloved print shop because she couldn't run it alone. He made a silent promise at the funeral. He'd build the career his father never got to see. He'd make something of himself in the printing industry his dad loved. He'd make his father proud. By 31, he's senior production manager at Meridian Print Solutions, one of the largest commercial printing companies in the region. Respected, successful, on track for director of operations. Chris gets the call while reviewing proofs for a major campaign. His mother had a stroke while gardening. By the time he reaches the hospital, she's already gone. He's an only child, no siblings. His father's side of the family is scattered, distant. His mother's sister lives overseas. He's alone. The funeral is small. A handful of his mother's friends, some distant cousins he barely knows. He's back at work within 5 days. What else is there? The apartment echoes with silence. Work fills the void. Elena Ashford has always maintained professional distance with Chris, cordial, respectful, but with the clear boundaries expected of a CEO. But she notices the change after his mother's death, the hollowness in his eyes, the mechanical way he moves through his days, like he's going through the motions without really being present. One evening, she finds him alone in the production floor at 9 p.m., staring blankly at press specifications on his computer screen. "Chris?" she says gently from the doorway. "Go home." He startles, clearly not having heard her approach. "I'm fine, Ms. Ashford, just finishing up the Morrison account." "You're not fine." Her voice is softer than he's ever heard it. "And that's okay, but sitting here in an empty building isn't helping." She pauses, something raw crossing her face. "I lost my mother 4 years ago. I know that emptiness you're trying to outrun. Please, go home. Actually rest." It's the first real conversation they've ever had beyond work. A week later, Chris is working from home at 10 p.m., struggling with a major client's specifications for a catalog run. The ink formulations aren't matching their brand standards, and he can't figure out why. Frustrated, he emails Elena a technical question, not expecting a response until morning. His phone rings 5 minutes later. It's her. "I'm up anyway," she says, and he can hear the smile in her voice. "Walk me through it." The work conversation takes 25 minutes. They solve the ink problem, a calibration issue with the new press. Then somehow they're still talking at midnight. She mentions her mother, a librarian who loved poetry, who died too young. Chris tells her about his mother's garden, how she always grew tomatoes, even though she hated tomatoes, just because Chris's father had loved them.
"She sounds wonderful," Elena says quietly. She was. They both were. The calls become routine. Never planned, never scheduled, but they happen. 11 p.m., midnight, sometimes 1 a.m. They talk about work, then about everything else. Her divorce 3 years ago from a man who wanted a trophy wife, not a partner. His regrets about not visiting his parents more, about prioritizing deadlines over dinners. Books, music, the absurdity of corporate culture, childhood memories, hopes they'd never voiced to anyone else. Chris realizes with quiet terror that he's falling for her, Deep, aching, completely impossible feelings for a woman who's not only his boss, but so far out of his league it's laughable. He never says a word. He treasures the calls, lives for them, but never crosses that line. Meridian announces a merger with Parker Media Group, one of their biggest competitors. It's supposed to streamline operations, expand their market reach, create synergies. What it actually creates is chaos. Elena is consumed by negotiations, traveling constantly between their office and Parker's headquarters 3 states away. Board meetings, lawyer consultations, due diligence reviews. The late-night calls stop. She doesn't have time anymore. Chris's workload explodes. He's covering his job plus the responsibilities of 2 people who quit during the merger uncertainty. He's managing 3 major accounts simultaneously, overseeing the integration of Parker's production systems with Meridian's, training new staff, fixing equipment failures, and somehow still expected to meet every deadline. 80-hour weeks become normal, then 90. 4 months into the merger, Chris realizes he can't remember what day of the week it is. He's eating 1 meal a day, whatever he can grab from the vending machine. He's sleeping 4 hours a night, and even then, he dreams about press calibrations and paper stocks. The mistakes start small. A typo in a job ticket, a wrong paperweight ordered. Nothing catastrophic, but not like him. Then comes the Harrington Medical Catalog. It's a $180,000 job, a major healthcare provider's quarterly catalog, 50,000 copies. Chris is overseeing the entire run. He's been awake for 22 hours when he approves the final plates. The presses run. 50,000 catalogs are printed, cut, bound, and shipped before anyone notices. The header on every single page reads Hartington Medical Center, not Harrington. Hartington. Chris stares at the proof copy on his desk, his hands shaking. $180,000 in materials, labor, and shipping. All garbage. All his fault. The company will have to eat the cost and reprint everything. He sits in his car in the parking lot at 2 a.m., his father's voice echoing in his head. Measure twice, cut once, son. In this business, details are everything. His father died chasing next year. His mother died alone while he was reviewing proofs for a mattress company's advertisement. What the hell is he doing? Chris walks into Elena's office the next morning with a letter and the ruined catalog. She looks exhausted, too. Hair pulled back in a messy bun instead of her usual sleek style, 3 coffee cups on her desk at 9 a.m., dark circles under her eyes that makeup can't quite hide. I'm resigning, he says, setting both items on her desk. Effective immediately or 2 weeks if you need transition time for my accounts. She picks up the catalog first, sees the error, winces, then reads his resignation letter. Something cracks in her professional facade. Chris, this mistake, yes, it's costly, but it's fixable. You don't have to. It's not just the mistake, it's that I made it at all. I've been running on empty for months, and I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten until I ruined a $180,000 job. I'm burned out, Elena, completely, and I can't do this anymore.
I did this to you. Her voice is strained. I got so caught up in the merger, I stopped checking in with my team. With you. The calls... She stops, something vulnerable flashing across her face. I missed them. I missed talking to you. The air between them feels charged, dangerous. Words hover, unspoken. I need to do this, Chris says quietly. I can't be like my father. I won't die at my desk for a job that doesn't care if I exist. I care. The words slip out before she can stop them. She clears her throat. I mean, the company cares. You're valuable. But I understand. 2 weeks? If you need it. I do. They both know something more was almost said in that silence. Neither can afford to name it. 3 days later. It's Chris's 32nd birthday, the first birthday without his mother. the first birthday alone. He doesn't tell anyone, doesn't post on social media, doesn't make plans. He takes the day off, sits in his apartment, stares at the calendar on his kitchen wall, where he'd circled the date weeks ago, back when he'd thought maybe he'd do something, see someone, mark the occasion somehow. But there's no one to mark it with. At 8 p.m., he's eating cereal from the box, watching a movie he's not really seeing, when there's a knock at his door. He opens it to find Elena Ashford standing in the pouring rain. She's not in her usual CEO armor of designer suits and perfect hair. She's in jeans and a sweater, both now soaked through, her hair dripping, clutching a folder of what looks like work documents and a paper bag that's disintegrating in the rain. "Elena?" He's too shocked to be anything but honest. "What are you doing here?" She looks uncertain, vulnerable. "I know I said you needed space to process everything. I know I should respect that. But I brought your final paperwork and I thought maybe we could talk, and I got you some food because I thought you might not be eating properly, and—" She stops, takes a breath. "I couldn't let you leave my life without asking for what I really want." He stares at her, rain pouring down behind her, his porch light casting her in a soft glow. "Can I come in?" she asks quietly. "Please?" "Yes, God, yes, you're soaking wet." He steps aside, then immediately goes to his linen closet. "Let me get you a towel." Elena steps into his small apartment, dripping on his floor, looking around. It's modest, a one-bedroom with mismatched furniture, but clean, cozy. Photos on the walls of his parents, books stacked on the coffee table. Chris returns with towels, and, after a moment's hesitation, some of his clothes. "The bathroom's there. These will be huge on you, but they're dry. Take your time." She disappears into the bathroom, while he deals with the soaked food bag, Chinese takeout, mostly salvageable. He plates it, sets his small table, tries not to think about the fact that Elena Ashford is in his bathroom wearing his clothes. When she emerges, his old university sweatshirt hangs to her thighs, his sweatpants rolled up at the ankles. Her hair is damp but no longer dripping, face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looks younger, softer, completely beautiful. "Thank you," she says, and there's something in her voice he can't quite name. "The food survived," he says, gesturing to the table. "Mostly." They sit, eat in slightly awkward silence. Then her eyes catch something on his kitchen wall, the calendar with today's date circled in red, birthday written next to it in his mother's handwriting. She must have written it on there last year, and he'd never had the heart to replace the calendar. "Oh, Chris," her voice goes soft, devastated. "It's your birthday. You're spending your birthday alone?" "It's fine." "It's not fine." She sets down her fork. "You shouldn't be alone today." "There's no one else," he says simply, honestly. "My mom used to make a big deal about birthdays. She'd make this elaborate cake from scratch, sing off-key, make me blow out candles even when I said I was too old for it. Last year was the last time, and now there's just me." Elena reaches across his small table and holds his hand, just holds it. Her thumb brushes across his knuckles. "I'm here," she says quietly, "if you want me to be." As if on cue, the lights flicker once, twice, then die completely. The apartment plunges into darkness, the storm outside intensifying, thunder rumbles. Elena gasps softly, her hand tightening on his. "It's okay," Chris says, standing, but not letting go of her hand. "Happens sometimes in storms. The building's wiring is old. I've got candles somewhere." He fumbles through a drawer one-handed, unwilling to release her, until he finds a lighter and a half-melted candle, lights it. The small flame casts dancing shadows across the room. "I'm sorry," Elena says, and he realizes she's moved closer to him, standing right beside him in the small kitchen. "I'm not usually afraid of the dark, but that startled me." "Don't apologize." He's intensely aware of how close she is, how his sweatshirt smells like his detergent on her, how her hand is still in his. "Actually, wait here." He disappears into his bedroom, returns with a small box, birthday candles his mother had left here last year, meant for this year's cake that would never exist. "What are you doing?" Elena asks, as he sticks a single candle into one of the fortune cookies that came with the takeout. "Well," he says, lighting it with slightly shaking hands, "it's not a cake, but you're here and it's my birthday, and my mom would be furious if I didn't at least have a candle to blow out." The tiny flame flickers between them. Elena's eyes shine in the candlelight, and he can't tell if it's tears or just the light playing tricks. "Make a wish," she whispers. Chris looks at her, this incredible woman standing in his kitchen wearing his clothes, holding his hand, here on his worst day when he'd thought he'd be alone. He blows out the candle. "What did you wish for?" Elena asks. "If I tell you, it won't come true." That's not how it works for birthday wishes. Birthday wishes come true when you speak them aloud, when you're brave enough to say what you really want. The apartment is quiet, except for the rain and their breathing. The single candle on the table barely lights the space, creating an intimate cocoon. "I wished," Chris says slowly, "that this moment could be real, that you being here means what I hope it means, that I'm not imagining the way you look at me sometimes."
Elena's breath catches. "Chris? I know it's impossible. You're my boss. Were my boss. The power dynamic, the ethics of it, I've thought about all of it. Every time we talked until 2 a.m., every time I had to stop myself from saying too much, I reminded myself why it could never happen. But you're here, on my birthday, in my apartment, holding my hand in the dark. And He stops, takes a breath. "I need to know why. Those late-night calls," Elena says, her voice shaking slightly, "were the best part of my day. For months, the only time I felt like myself, like Elena instead of CEO Ashford, the only time I could just breathe." She steps closer, their joined hands between them. "When you resigned, I realized I wasn't just losing a talented production manager, I was losing you, the person who made me laugh at 1 a.m., who understood what it felt like to carry grief around like a weight, who saw me as a person, not just a title. Elena, I have feelings for you, Chris." The words tumble out in a rush. "Real, complicated, completely inappropriate feelings that I've been trying to ignore for half a year. That's why I'm here, because I couldn't let you walk away without telling you, without asking if maybe, possibly, you felt it too." Chris doesn't answer with words. He pulls her close, and she comes willingly, fitting against him like she was meant to be there. He holds her in his small, dark kitchen, her face pressed against his chest, his sweatshirt soft under her cheek. "I've been falling for you since the first call," he says into her hair. "I thought I was losing my mind." She pulls back just enough to look up at him. "So what do we do?" "I don't know. This is terrifying?" "Yeah." She smiles, and it's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. "Want to figure it out together?" He cups her face in his hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "More than anything." They stand there in the candlelight, the storm raging outside, the apartment dark around them, just holding each other. Eventually, they make their way to his couch, where they sit close, her head on his shoulder, talking until the power comes back on at 3 a.m. Neither of them wants to let go. They agree to take things slow. Chris finishes his 2 weeks at Meridian, training his replacement, tying up loose ends. They go on a real first date, dinner at a quiet restaurant where no one from the company will see them. "I almost called you Miss Ashford when you asked me to pass the salt," Chris admits. Elena laughs, the sound bright and free. "Please don't. This is weird enough already." But it works. Slowly, carefully, it works. They text throughout the day, nothing scandalous, just small moments, photos of interesting things they see, jokes that only the other would understand, good morning and good night messages that make them both smile. They have proper dates, movies, walks in the park, late-night diners where they talk for hours, learning each other outside the context of work, outside those late-night calls. Chris learns that Elena is terrible at mini-golf but refuses to give up, that she cries at sad commercials, that she makes the most elaborate breakfast spreads on Sunday mornings, that she's secretly a horror movie fan but only watches them with someone else because she gets scared. Elena learns that Chris is meticulous about recycling, that he can fix almost anything mechanical, that he still visits his parents' graves every Sunday with fresh flowers, that he whistles when he's happy, usually without realizing it. They're learning to be Chris and Elena, not production manager and CEO, just two people falling in love. 3 months into their relationship, Elena asks him to come to her house for dinner. There's something formal in her invitation that makes him nervous. Over wine in her beautiful kitchen, she slides a folder across the counter to him. Meridian needs a workplace wellness director, she says carefully. The merger made it painfully clear that we're burning out our employees. Turnover is up 30%. Quality control issues are increasing. People are leaving for lower-paying jobs just to get out. That's rough, Chris says, not sure where this is going. I want someone to fix it, really fix it, not just put up posters about self-care and call it done. Someone who understands the problem from the inside. Someone who knows what it's like to be so burned out you make catastrophic mistakes. Someone I trust. She meets his eyes. I want you to do it. Chris opens the folder. The job description is comprehensive. Developing wellness programs, advocating for reasonable workloads, restructuring processes to prevent burnout. Fully remote with flexible hours. Salary that's actually higher than his production manager position. Elena, people will talk. I know. They'll say I created this position just for me, that I got it because we're together. Probably. Here's the thing. Yes, I thought of you because I know you and I trust you. But Chris, you have a degree in industrial psychology that you've never used because you went straight into production management. You understand both the technical side of printing and the human side. You nearly worked yourself to death, so you understand the problem viscerally. You're qualified for this. You don't have to accept. You can find somewhere else, somewhere with no connection to me. But I want you to know the option exists, and I want you to know that if you take it, I will defend your qualifications to anyone who questions them. Chris looks at the job description again. It's exactly the kind of work he'd wanted to do with his psychology degree before his father died and he felt obligated to stay in printing. If I do this, I need to earn it, not just on paper, but in results. I wouldn't expect anything less. Then yes, I'll do it.
Chris's return to Meridian in a new role raises eyebrows immediately. The whispers start within days. Convenient. Wonder how he got that job. CEO's boyfriend gets a made-up position. But Chris ignores them and gets to work. He implements comprehensive wellness programs, mandatory PTO that actually gets used, mental health resources, workload audits with real consequences for managers who overwork their teams, flexible scheduling, proper training and staffing for major projects. He starts a confidential feedback system. He holds focus groups. He analyzes data on productivity, turnover, errors, and sick days. He builds a case for culture change with hard numbers. Employees start to respond. The production floor feels different. People seem less stressed. Turnover begins to drop. But the whispers don't stop. 8 months into his new role, Chris presents his quarterly results to the board. The numbers are undeniable. Turnover down 28%, quality control errors down 35%, employee satisfaction is a 5-year high. His qualifications are exemplary. Our relationship, which began after his resignation, is nobody's business but ours. She pauses. Do you have any relevant questions about these results, Thomas? Thomas backs down, but the damage lingers. Chris can feel the eyes on him, the judgment. That night, Chris is quiet at Elena's house. They'd planned to celebrate his successful presentation, but he can barely touch his dinner. Talk to me, Elena says gently. Maybe this was a mistake. The words come out flat. Maybe I should work somewhere else, prove myself independently, where no one can say I got the job because of who I'm dating. Is that what you want? I want to know I earned this. His frustration finally breaks through. I want to know that when people see my name on reports, they think he's good at his job, not he's sleeping with the CEO. He stops, running his hands through his hair. I want to stop feeling like I'm here because you took pity on me. Pity?
Elena's voice rises. "You think I'd risk my reputation, the company's reputation, everything I've spent 15 years building out of pity?" She stands, pacing her kitchen. "Chris, I fell in love with you because you're brilliant and compassionate, and you give a damn about people in an industry that usually doesn't. The job is real. Your work is real. The results speak for themselves. You just presented numbers that impressed a room full of skeptics. We are real. Stop punishing yourself for being happy. Stop waiting for permission to believe you deserve good things." The silence stretches. Chris looks at her, really looks at her, at the frustration and hurt and love on her face. "You love me?" he finally asks, voice soft. Elena stops pacing. "What? You said you fell in love with me, present tense." She sits back down, reaches across the table for his hand. "Yes, I love you. Completely, madly, in a way that probably isn't good for my blood pressure because I want to protect you from every skeptical board member and petty whisper, but I can't. So instead, I just have to watch you doubt yourself, and it kills me." Chris threads his fingers through hers. "I love you too. I'm sorry. It's just hard sometimes to believe this is real, that I get to have this, that I didn't just stumble into something good by accident." "You didn't stumble. You showed up. You did the work. You earned this. The job. Us. All of it." She squeezes his hand. "And I'll remind you of that as many times as you need to hear it."
A year later, Chris's wellness programs gain industry recognition. He speaks at a printing industry conference about workplace culture. Another company tries to poach him with a huge salary increase. He turns them down. He's building something important at Meridian, and he's not running anymore. Elena gradually reduces her CEO hours, bringing in a COO to handle day-to-day operations. She's built Meridian into something sustainable, something that doesn't require her constant presence. She's learning to live, not just work. They move in together, not into Elena's house or Chris's apartment, but a new place that's theirs. They pick out furniture together, argue about paint colors, create a home. "I have a surprise," Chris says one Saturday morning. He leads Elena out to the parking lot, where an old, slightly battered white van sits. "Is that?" "My dad's van. It's been in storage since Mom died. I finally got it running again." He runs his hand along the side. "I thought maybe we could take a trip, get out of the city for a few days." Elena's smile is brilliant. "I love it. Where are we going?" "Wherever the van takes us." They pack bags, load up snacks and a cooler, and head out with no real destination in mind, just the open road and each other. The van drives like a dream for the first 3 hours. They sing along to the radio, stop for coffee at a roadside stand, take a detour to see a quirky museum about printing history that Chris insists on visiting. "This is perfect," Elena says, her hand in his as they drive through rolling countryside. "Thank you for this. Thank you for saying yes to the adventure." Around noon, they pull into a tiny town called Millbrook, population 2,847, according to the weathered sign. Chris's stomach is growling, and they need gas anyway. They find a diner called Rosie's that looks like it hasn't changed since 1975. Red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, a waitress who calls them Hun and doesn't bat an eye at their request for whatever's good. The burgers are amazing. The fries are perfect. The milkshakes are the kind you have to eat with a spoon first. "We should move here," Elena jokes, stealing one of his fries. "And do what? I don't think Millbrook has a major printing company. We'll open a bookstore or a coffee shop, something quiet. You'd be bored in a week." "Maybe," she grins, "but it's nice to imagine sometimes." They linger over coffee, talking to Rosie herself, a woman in her 70s who's owned the diner for 43 years. She tells them about the town, recommends a scenic overlook about an hour away, insists they try her apple pie before they go. It's the kind of perfect, unexpected moment that makes the whole trip worth it.
They make it to the scenic overlook Rosie recommended. It's breathtaking. A valley spread out below them, mountains in the distance. the late afternoon sun painting everything gold. Chris pulls Elena close, and they stand at the edge, just taking it in. "I'm glad I resigned," he says quietly. "Yeah? If I hadn't, none of this happens. We don't happen. I'd still be killing myself on the production floor, pretending I'm fine, never admitting I want something different." "I'm glad you resigned too." Elena turns to face him. "And I'm glad you let me in. That night in your apartment, I was terrified driving over there, terrified you'd send me away, but I couldn't not try." "Best birthday I ever had," he says, kissing her forehead. "Terrible candle and all." They get back in the van, ready to continue to their planned camping spot another hour away. Chris turns the key. The engine makes a horrible grinding sound, sputters and dies. He tries again, same sound, then nothing. "Oh no," he says. "Is it? I think the van just died." They look at each other. Then, inexplicably, they both start laughing. Not frustrated laughter, but genuine amusement at the absurdity. "Of course it did," Elena says, still laughing. "Of course your dad's van would get us exactly where we needed to be and then give up." "He always had a flair for the dramatic," Chris agrees. They call a tow truck, which takes an hour to arrive. The driver tows them back to Millbrook, where the only mechanic says he can look at it Monday. It's Saturday evening, and he doesn't work Sundays. They end up at Millbrook's One Bed and Breakfast, a charming Victorian house run by a couple in their 60s who are delighted to have guests. That night, in a room with floral wallpaper in a bed that's seen better days, Elena and Chris lie tangled together, windows open to let in the cool evening air. "This wasn't exactly the plan," Chris says. "It's better than the plan," Elena replies. "The van got us here, to this ridiculous, perfect little town with the best diner I've ever been to and a bed and breakfast straight out of a movie. Your dad had good timing." Yeah, he did. "Do you think he'd be proud of what you're doing now?" Chris is quiet for a moment. "I think he'd be confused at first. You left production after I taught you everything? But then, I think he'd get it. I think he'd be proud that I chose to actually live instead of just work, that I found you. Your mom definitely would be proud. She'd love you. She always said I needed someone who wouldn't let me hide, someone who'd make me actually live my life." He kisses the top of her head. "She would have been so happy I found you. I'm happy you found me too, or I found you, however it happened." "You found me," Chris says. "You showed up in the rain, you held my hand in the dark, you made a terrible fortune cookie birthday candle moment into something I'll remember forever." "It was pretty terrible," Elena agrees, smiling against his chest. "It was perfect." They fall asleep like that, wrapped around each other, the van dead in a mechanic's lot, their camping trip derailed, and neither of them caring at all.